Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. Kyber Momand is asking, sir, how are you today? I'm doing fantastic, Kyber. I hope you're doing the same. In this class, everyone, we are looking at IELTS vocabulary and grammar for Band 9 scores. We're going to talk about what kind of grammar, what kind of vocabulary practice you need to have, what kind of skills you need to have in order to get those higher band scores in your IELTS exam. Welcome, Carolina, our moderator. This lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Check us out there. And for general IELTS, you can check us out at gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both of those websites, we have lots and lots of resources for you to improve your English, your grammar, your vocabulary, as well as your communication. In fact, we will use one of these websites today as a vocabulary and grammar resource. So hang in there. I'll show you what these websites look like real quickly while we wait for a few more members to join in. This is our academic IELTS website here with the blue background. You can click this big red button to join our premium package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access, so it's really well worth it. And we are an official British Council IELTS Test Registration Center and certified agents, so you're in good hands with us. This is the general IELTS website here with the green background. Same idea. Click that big red button to join us there. Welcome, Thomas. Hi, Arminder. Good to see more students in here. Kyber, we're going to talk a little bit about grammar and vocabulary strategy, and we're going to look at some resources that you have to improve your grammar and your vocabulary on a daily basis, okay? All right, and so getting back to this a little bit, get the apps, Academic IELTS Help, General IELTS Help from your app stores. Link those apps to their respective websites. So Academic IELTS Help links to AE Help, General IELTS Help links to gieltshelp.com. So you get some integrative learning. If you have any questions about our courses or about the IELTS, you can always send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com. Aman, I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. Okay. All right. Thomas, I'm glad that you're finding this a lot clearer than before. That's great. Okay. We're actually going to be bringing you even more different styles of live classes here very soon. So it's quite exciting. So it's good to subscribe to the channel, get notifications as well. Okay, later after this class, we will do listening part 3 and listening part 4. That will be a continuation from yesterday's listening part 1 and part 2. Okay, welcome Janelle. Hi Farduus. Hi at Mall. Okay, so let's get into today's lesson, and I've got a couple of points here to start us off. Okay, so a lot of people kind of talk about this concept of academic vocabulary or academic English for the IELTS exam, and I wanted to just focus on that for a quick minute and then get into some actual vocabulary learning. So you can see that I have some question marks here. So I have 3 question marks here. Academic vocabulary. When you have the 3 question marks, it's kind of like meaning like what or what is that? So in your opinion, what do you think is academic vocabulary? So what is meant by this collocation? So what does that actually mean? Okay, I think that, there's a little bit of confusion about what is actually meant by this concept of academic vocabulary. And I want to clear that up because it's important to have clear understanding here when you're learning vocabulary, when you're improving your lexical resource. And lexical resource is an important part of your IELTS score. It helps you to understand the listening and the reading. And lexical resource is one of the marking criteria on both the writing and the speaking. Okay, so Atmel says maybe it means something about like expert vocabulary or scientific vocabulary maybe. Yeah, those are some good guesses, Mal. Okay, those are not bad. So Mal's guessing maybe it means, this is Mal's opinion here. Maybe it means expert or scientific vocabulary. Okay. Natalie says format, style, and academic words. But Natalie, if you say academic words, you're really just repeating the concept of academic vocabulary. You haven't actually explained the concept, okay? Carlos says, to answer your question, it could be related to writing task 1. The vocabulary might change depending on the graph. And Carolina says, specific vocabulary for specific areas. Very clever, Carolina. That's probably the best answer, okay? Thomas says formal vocabulary, but formal vocabulary, Thomas, is again just a paraphrase of academic vocabulary, okay? So Carolina has a very good answer here. Carolina says maybe it has something to do with using specific vocabulary for specific areas of knowledge. Okay, so I've added a little bit to it, Carolina, but this is really good, all right? So, and I'll explain why. So academic vocabulary, if you actually talk to an English professor, okay, somebody who is truly an expert of the English language, an English professor will actually tell you that the concept of academic vocabulary doesn't really exist. Or the reality, I should say. The concept might exist, but the reality of academic vocabulary does not truly exist, okay? It's a bit of a myth, all right? So it's something that we actually use. We say academic vocabulary, academic words, but it doesn't really exist. All words are words. All words could be academic, okay? What we mean by this is what Carolina is saying. So it's using specific vocabulary that might not be in use frequently in everyday language, okay? So think of academic vocabulary as words that are not so frequently used, perhaps, to express more detailed and more specific information for a certain idea, okay? So that's what's meant by this, okay? The English vocabulary is massive. I think it's over 1.5, 1.6 million words, something like that. You can look that up. But I know it's well over 1 million now. And when we're talking about academic vocabulary, we're really talking about the use of unique and specific words to express exact concepts, okay? Now, some people will say it's words that are frequently used in academic settings, okay? And this is an interesting kind of concept or definition here. All right. And a couple of researchers in New Zealand, professors of English, actually did a study where they wanted to identify the most frequently used words in academic situations. And they came up with what's known as the AWS, which is called the Academic Word List. Okay. Now, it just so happens that on our website, when you create an account and you go to your My Student account, okay, in your My Student account, you will find a very helpful section called Blogs. Okay. And in these blogs, this is at aehelp.com, but you'll also find this at gieltshelp.com as well. And in these blogs, if you go to the search in the IELTS blog and just type in vocabulary, do a search for that, you're going to find some blogs that are specifically targeting vocabulary. Okay. So let's click on this second one. I think the first one is the same. It's just maybe more recent, but we'll click on this second one. IELTS vocabulary for high scores. Okay. All right. So in this blog, you're going to be able to read and review much of the information that I'm going to teach you today. And I highly, highly recommend doing this when you have a bit of time. Now, I realize that the text is a little bit small, so maybe zoom in if you're on a mobile phone. If you're on a computer, you'll be okay. All right. Okay, so here's what I'm talking about, and let's just read this together a little bit, and then we'll get into actually practicing and using some of these words here in a second. Paulo is asking a really good question before we read. Paulo is asking, is this class applicable to academic IELTS only? No, absolutely not, Paulo. The more vocabulary that you use in general IELTS, the better your general IELTS score is going to be as well. So let me make a point of that. This is just kind of a side point, but it's an important one because students think that you only need good vocabulary for the academic IELTS, but that's not true. It will help in the academic IELTS in the sense of the reading being a little bit more advanced with vocabulary, okay? So having good vocabulary is very useful for both the academic and general versions of the IELTS exam, okay? So knowing specific words is great for both, absolutely. Okay, and that's why we have this list on both of our websites. So let's just read this and then I'll show you how this really works, okay? So here's a list of 570 words often used in English writing. Professors searched many English books, magazines, and other literature to find words that are the most commonly used. No surprise, you will find many of these words in your IELTS exam. Find this list of words below. Okay. All right, and then if we keep going down, we find these lists of words, and it's 570 words. Now, importantly, you see these numbers above these lists. So you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it keeps going. So you're going to see 6 is kind of off to the side here, right there. And then you see 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 7, 8, 9, and you'll find 10 below. And there's lots of words there. All together, there are 570 words here. Okay, all right. So what do these numbers mean? All right, so the numbers in this academic word list numbered 1 to 10. Okay. 1 are the absolute most popular words. And then this decreases to number 10. Now, keep in mind, it's very important that number 10 words are also very popular, just not as popular as number 1 or number 2. All right? So it doesn't mean, oh, I don't need to learn the number 10 words because they're not as popular as number 1, but you should start with number 1 words, okay? So it is a good idea to start with numbers 5 to 10, okay? All right. So now the next question that some of you might be asking is how to really study vocabulary effectively. So what is an effective method? All right. There are lots of different ways to study vocabulary to improve your lexical resource. And you should be studying it effectively, okay? The effective study of vocabulary can have a huge impact on your efficiency. Here's a quick question to start you off. How many new words should you be learning each day, especially when you're getting ready for the IELTS? So how many do you think? And Carolina says 3. Rajveer says 10. Kyber says 4 to 5. Yeah, I would say 3 to 5. So minimum 3. No more than 7. An average of 5. This is realistic because learning vocabulary is not just about understanding new words, but it's also about being able to use them, okay? So oftentimes students will learn new words, but they don't actually learn them. They just learn to understand them. They don't learn to actually use them in context, okay? So you can't really, most people can't really learn more than about 7 new words per day effectively, all right? So keep that in mind. So Aman, 3 is not bad. Aminder, 5 is a great guess. 5 is right in the middle, okay? All right? Okay, so you should learn about 3 to 7 words each day. And you should learn them in context, okay? So when you're doing like a reading passage in the IELTS or listening and you hear a new word that you don't understand, especially if it's part of the answer, you should definitely take that word and learn it, okay? At the same time, you can use this academic word list that I'm showing you here, okay? All right. So here we have this word list, and I'm going to zoom in a bit more so we can pick some words. Now, you notice that the words here are organized alphabetically. Okay, so analyze, analysis, approach, area, assess, assume, authority. For number 2 level words, it's achieve, acquire, administrate. All right, you should not learn words alphabetically, okay? That's not effective for the brain. So instead, your first step should be to just take out words that you completely understand, okay? So if you know the word comment, then take it out from the list, okay? So don't learn words that you have already learned, all right? So focus on words that are new for you, okay? Now, definitely make sure that you know them. Some of these words have multiple meanings, and you want to be certain that you know all of their meanings. Now, of these 570 words, I'm sure that you will know many. So there might be maybe only like 100 or 200 left, okay? All right, so let me show you how to learn effectively, all right? Let's take the word core. All right, I think that's a good word to start off with. So I'm just randomly going to choose this word core. It's a nice short word, only 4 letters. And then I'm going to go through the process of learning this word, okay? All right. So there are 3 basic steps. To acquiring a new word. Okay. Step number 1 is to get the definition of the word. Okay. So number 1 is to define the word. All right. Now, what I recommend is having a vocabulary notebook that's actually like paper and pencil so that you can carry it with you. I recommend having a small little vocabulary book in your back pocket. Don't just use your digital device. So don't just use your phone or your tablet or your computer, because the problem is that once you're done, the words disappear, the information disappears. So for learning vocabulary, it's better to have a little notebook or little flashcards that you can actually keep with you at all times, okay? All right. So here, let's take the word core. Anybody know what the word core actually means? So what is the definition of the word core, C-O-R-E? Okay. Now, if you're into computers, you've probably heard this word a few times when you're describing the processor in the computer. So it's a quad core or it's an 8-core processor. Right now I'm running an AMD 8-core Ryzen 7 processor. So what does the word core actually means? Okay. Aman says it means the corner. I don't think so, Aman. Paulo says it's the main part of something. Okay. Mal says it means the center or the main aspect. Yes, absolutely. So the core. Okay, obviously it's a noun. And if you're not familiar with the pronunciation, you can always get the pronunciation from Google these days. Okay. All right. So that's what core means. All right. So core is the center or the main aspect of something. All right. So here it's a noun. Now we know this. Now we can go to the second step. Okay. Which is to write a complex sentence that includes yourself and is interesting. Okay? So one of the most common mistakes that many students make when they're studying vocabulary is they create useless kinds of sentences that the brain just basically throws away. Okay? Let me give you an example of this. Okay? So here's a bad example. Okay? All right, so here is a bad example of a sentence when you're trying to learn new vocabulary like core, okay? So the core of the earth is thought to be molten rock, okay? Molten means liquid. Okay, I'm teaching you vocabulary while teaching you the right steps to learning vocabulary. Okay, so the core of the earth is thought to be molten rock. Why is this a bad sentence for learning this vocabulary core? Okay, why is this a bad sentence? Why is this not effective? So if I write this example sentence, there's a very good chance that in one day, 1 week, 1 month, I might completely forget what this word means, and I won't be able to use it in my speaking. Okay, Kyber says because it doesn't actually connect with you, the learner. Okay, yeah, so exactly, Kyber. The information overload in today's world, meaning the great amount of information that we get from the experience that we have every day, is so much that our brains are actually kind of just throwing out most of it. And it really is only focusing on information that we feel is somehow connected to us. And Rajveer says it's not really interesting either. Like, it's something that we learned in school a long time ago, and it doesn't really make it interesting in any way, okay? So your brain will literally just take this kind of a sentence, put it into storage, and in the future it will probably have a really difficult time to access that information. So here's a good example, okay? All right, so there is a good example for learning the word core. All right, I was choking on the core of the apple until my dad hit me real hard on my back and I spat it back onto my plate. Okay, now clean up your sentences. We don't need the doubling of the back. Choking is misspelt. All right. So here's a good example. I was choking on the core of the apple until my dad hit me real hard on my back and I spat it onto my plate. Okay. Carolina says, quite visual, laughing. Absolutely, it's very visual. So you can actually see this, okay? So I'm choking on the apple core. Now the apple core, as you can imagine, it's when you kind of finish eating your apple, okay? Little seeds in there maybe, okay? So that's the apple core, all right? And some of us like to eat it. I don't know about you. Sometimes I like to munch away on that apple core. And it's easy to choke on that because it's quite abrasive, okay? All right? So that would be a good example. Also, it's complex. It's using a subordinating conjunction of time, until, okay? And it's making it also a compound sentence by using a coordinating conjunction. And I spat it back onto my plate, all right? So here I'm involved and I have the word core. In my vocabulary notebook, I would definitely underline this word. In fact, I recommend using a different colored pen or pencil to emphasize the new vocabulary that's in there, okay? All right. Okay, so number 2, when you're learning vocabulary effectively, is to write a complex sentence that includes yourself and it's interesting. This will help you to remember and recall the information. So it will help you to remember it and be able to use the information when you have to, okay? Can everybody give me a sentence using core that's an effective or a good example? Okay, so I've given you my example here. Before we move on to the next step, so it's time to practice. Let's do this together. So give me an example sentence here, okay? All right, give me a nice example sentence using the word core. You don't have to use an apple. It can be really different. Core is, in this case, is the center, okay? But you can use it in a bit of a different way to reflect the secondary meaning of main aspect, okay? Thomas, you can give an example using a human part. Just make sure that it includes yourself, it's interesting, and it's a complex sentence. Okay, Rodriguez says, I was just 15 years old when I got lost at the core of an aisle. You would not use it in that context, Rajveer, so this is why it's good to try. We wouldn't say core of the aisle, so you're thinking like center of an aisle, but it's not used in that concept, okay? It wouldn't be, it's awkward, okay? So try a different sentence, Rajveer. Not in that context doesn't work. Carolina says, my mother taught me that the core values that I really have to keep in mind are honesty, integrity, and respect. Yeah, Carolina, core values is a very common collocation. We use that. I think you can make your example a little bit more exciting or a little bit more interesting. I think it's okay, Carolina, but I think you can take it a step further, make it more unique, okay? Paulo says, my brother and I argued for hours about his stolen car without really talking about the core of the problem. He left his car outside in the street at night. Paulo, that is a really nice complex sentence, okay? Just use a semicolon instead of the colon there. And the core of the problem is also a useful way to implement the word. So we do say that. It's like the main issue, okay? Aman says the core of the chapter is awesome. I don't know if we would say the core of the chapter, Aman Valley, but Ville, but I think that we could say the core of the book, maybe, okay? Fardia says, we are living on the earth which has a core that lets it move around the sun and the moon. Farduus, you're not really included in that sentence. I think, Farduus, your example is very similar to my bad example. The core of the earth is thought to be molten rock. So you need a different sentence, Farduus, that is more unique, it includes you, and it's more complex in some way as well. Okay, Arminder says, I was trying to get my car started, but the mechanic said that the core of the car was damaged by mice. Yeah, that's a good one, Arminder. I like it. Okay, core of the car might refer to the engine. It's kind of like the heart of the car. I think it's acceptable, so I would say that's okay. And it's very visual, so I can actually see you trying to start your car, and then visually these little mice that are all over the place in your car, and they've eaten the electronics and eaten parts of the car. They do that. So yeah, rats and mice will actually go into cars and chew the electronics and chew other components. So that does happen. I've heard of it. I think, Arminder, that is a really clever example. So the core of my vehicle was damaged by mice, so I wasn't able to start it. I think that's fantastic. Okay? That's the kind of clever concept. That's the kind of example that's really effective for learning. Good job. Okay? All right, so let's go to step 3. So that's what you want to do, okay? Effective vocabulary is learned by great examples. Okay? That's what you want to be doing. You don't want to be doing like your grade 5 English vocabulary textbook learning where it's like John ate the core of the red apple. Okay, so you don't want to do that. All right, so step number 3, and this is a very important step, okay? About a week after you have recorded new vocabulary in your lexical resource, let's call it a lexical resource notebook. You should paraphrase your example sentence while keeping the new vocabulary. Okay. So one of the big problems when students are learning new vocabulary, getting ready for their IELTS exam, is they try to learn new words every single day, and then they get to their IELTS exam and they really have trouble just remembering the words, the hundreds of words that they learned leading up to their exam. When you're getting ready for IELTS, you shouldn't just be looking at new words every day, but you should be revisiting the words that you're learning throughout your studies and at least practicing them once or twice more, okay? And I'm going to show you an interesting kind of twist to this third step here very, very soon, okay? Here we go. So a week after, okay, you recorded your new vocab, paraphrase it. Paraphrasing means to write the same sentence using different words, okay? So, sorry, I should say write the same idea, not the same sentence. Write the same idea using different words. So, I was choking. What's another way to say I was choking? Okay, so here I'm going to take this good example, and in your vocabulary book, leave it some space, okay, so that you can do this. Always leave a couple of lines underneath each of your examples. And this in itself will help you greatly, okay? So, what's another way to say I was choking? Okay, so we want to repeat the same idea with different words, only using the word core again. Okay, this is to strengthen this. Okay, so Natalie, very good. Natalie says we can say couldn't breathe. Yeah, absolutely. So okay. I couldn't breathe because. How should I continue this? Okay, give me the next part of this sentence. Okay. I couldn't breathe because. Yeah, Arminder, very good. Unable to breathe. So you could say I was unable to breathe because. Okay. Paulo, don't paraphrase the new vocabulary. So core, don't paraphrase that. Okay, say it a different way. Okay, keep the word core in your sentence. So you want to paraphrase except for the new vocabulary. Okay, so keep that vocabulary. All right. So keep that vocabulary. Yeah, Rajveer, very good. So Rajveer says, because the core of an apple was stuck in my throat. That's good, Rajveer. We can simplify that. And Natalie's done a good job of simplifying it. Natalie says, an apple core was stuck in my throat. Yeah, I couldn't breathe because an apple core was stuck in my throat. Okay. Now, instead of was, I can change this to had got. Stuck. Okay. So I couldn't breathe because an apple core had got stuck in my throat. Why did I change that to past perfect? Okay, and this is going into the next concept, which is truly understanding vocabulary, or sorry, grammar. Truly understanding grammar. Okay, so you have to understand grammar for the IELTS and the real purpose of grammar. And here's an example of that. Okay, I probably won't have too much time to get really in depth on this topic, but I'm going to show you a little bit of that right now, and then we'll do another class that's focusing just on grammar. So I couldn't breathe because an apple core had got stuck in my throat. Why did I change this to past perfect? Okay, very clever, Natalie. I can tell that you've been really studying hard, and it's showing because it happened before I stopped breathing. Yeah, so this action happened before this action, right? So first, the apple core got stuck in my throat, and then I wasn't able to breathe, okay? So it's making it more complex for sure, Carolina, but the reason that I'm using this is to emphasize the order of events. So even though I'm saying this second, it happened first. So why am I saying this first? Okay? And this is the reason that we have past perfect in the English language. I'm saying this first because this is where the emphasis is. Okay? It's like I couldn't breathe because an apple core had got stuck in my throat. So it's the not being able to breathe that I want to emphasize. So I want to say it first, but it happened after this event, so I have to use the past perfect so that I have clarity in my timeline. Okay? All right, I know that might have been a little bit complex for everyone, and I will get more into explaining these concepts in a grammar class that will focus purely on grammar, okay? But emphasis is very important, and here I'm emphasizing the fact that I couldn't breathe, which happened after an apple core got stuck in my throat. Okay, so let's keep paraphrasing, all right? So I was choking on the core of an apple until my dad hit me real hard on my back. So let's keep paraphrasing that. Until my dad hit me real hard on my back. Okay? And I spat it onto my plate. We'll get to that after. Okay? So paraphrase this. Until my dad hit me real hard on my back. Okay? No, Mal, we need the word got stuck here. Had stuck is not going to make sense. Okay? Chinyere amak, I was breathless is not good enough for choking. Okay? Breathless means that you're out of breath, but it's not enough for meaning choking. Okay? All right. So I'll paraphrase, you paraphrase, and then we'll compare. Let's see if you come up with something similar. Okay, so there's my paraphrase. Again, just do your best. If you don't paraphrase every single word, that's fine. But just try to do as much as possible. So instead of dad, you could do father. Hit me real hard. Slap me with force. Okay. So slap is where you're like, right? So slap me with force on my spine. Now, if you're having trouble paraphrasing a word, like, for example, hit, then what you can do is, especially if you're using a computer, or you can use your phone for this, of course, as well. So you can take the word hit and you can use your thesaurus. So in Microsoft Word, it's under Review, Thesaurus, and then here, I don't think I can zoom in on that, nope. You have words like to smash, to knock, to blow, to smack, to slap. Smack is a good one too. Smacked me real hard on the back. Okay, so while you're paraphrasing, you actually learn a lot of other great words as well. Okay, strike, Rajveer, is good as well. So Rajveer, you could say, until my father struck me with force on my back. Okay. Instead of back, I use spine. Spine is the bone, the center of your back. Okay, all right. Arminder says, until my father patted me really hard on my back. Patted would not work, Arminder. It's a good try, but patted would not work because pat is gentle. Okay, when you pat someone, you do it gently. Okay, so it'd have to be strike or smack or slap. Okay. All right. Thomas, that's a little bit off topic, but it's a good paraphrase. Okay. Posterior is very good, Rajveer. Absolutely. So I'm not sure if you looked up that word, but instead of using the word back, until my father slapped me on my posterior, it's actually good. Okay. Posterior will work as well. It means on your back. All right. So that's what you want to do. You want to paraphrase the word and then make sure that you actually read your vocabulary book every few days and go over these words. Okay. So again, just to summarize what I emphasized for you in this class, first of all, use this vocabulary word list. Again, the people who created this word list, it's called Avril Coxhead's High Incidence Academic Word List, AWL. You can look this up. It's used for vocabulary teaching in a lot of classes. It's words of high frequency 1 to 10. Okay, so this is what we're using. These are available on our website. These steps that I just showed you, you can also read about them on the website. It's here in several points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can find this in our blogs on our website. So go to aehelp.com, go to glshelp.com, go into your My Student account, search the blog, and every single day, focus on at least 3, but on average 5 words from this list. Okay. Yeah, Rajveer, you searched it, and that's great. That's exactly what you should be doing, okay? So then choose those words, and once you've chosen those words, then go through these steps. So define the word, okay? Write down all the definitions. Write a complex sentence that includes yourself and it's interesting. And then a few days or a week after, paraphrase that sentence using other words. I promise you that if you make this a regular 20-minute part of your daily studies, you will get a better band score on your IELTS exam as long as you've given yourself, 2-3 months to prepare for your test. If you've only got 1 month, it's still a great idea to do this. You just might need to put in a little bit more effort, like 3-4 words in the morning and then 3-4 words in the evening. Okay, so that's what you want to do. And then you also want to make sure that you truly understand grammar. And I'm going to show you how to do that more later on. That will be a class for next week. Okay, so great job, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this class, and I really hope that you do this kind of vocabulary practice each and every day. And of course, you can do this with the vocabulary that you come across in your IELTS listening and reading passages as well. Natalie, you are very welcome. Chinyere, Arminder, Thomas, great job over in our General English Help channel. Carolina, I'm glad that you enjoyed that, okay? That was really good work on behalf of everyone there. Okay, students, so coming up in about 30 minutes, I will host another class that will be listening IELTS Part 3, Part 4. We will do listening practice, so stay here, subscribe to the channel, click on notifications, and learn some more IELTS with me. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out from Victoria for now, but I'll be back in half an hour with another great lesson. Bye.